I wasn't sure whether I was going to do this presentation or not, but it wouldn't be right to have done the two demand-side policies, fiscal and monetary, without having completed the series on macroeconomic policies with a supply-side policy presentation. And then I read an article written by Professor Barry Eichengreen from UC Berkeley on the human capital cost of the coronavirus crisis. And this further inspired me to do this presentation. This article is definitely worth a read. The link's in the description below. No, I'm not being sponsored. I wish I was though. So anyway, welcome to this presentation, where I will take you over the supply side of the macroeconomy by looking at aggregate supply, the coronavirus, and also supply side policies in this two-part presentation. In part one of this presentation, we'll first be differentiating the concept of aggregate supply from aggregate demand, and then we'll be applying the potential impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on the supply side capacity of economies all around the world. We will also revise the various diagrams that can illustrate this impact. In part two, we will look at the supply side policies. There is quite a long list of supply side policies in reality, but we won't have time to go through all of this. Therefore, in this part, we will only look at the 5 supply side policies that is outlined in the Pearson Edexcel A-level economics specification, namely, to increase incentives, to promote competition, to reform the labor market, to improve skills and the quality of the labor force, and to improve infrastructure. In the previous presentations on fiscal and monetary policy, links to these videos are in this description below. We really emphasize the fact that both these policies have the power to affect aggregate demand of the economy. This means that all the lines of causation developed were related to changes in either consumption, investment, government spending, or net exports. This is because AD equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. If you have not memorized this formula, it is high time that you do so. Okay, but if aggregate demand of the economy has this tidy formula of AD equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M, what then is the formula for aggregate supply? Is there even one? It actually depends on who you ask and in what context we are looking at. You should already know that actually there are various aggregate supply concepts. The neoclassical short-run aggregate supply, the neoclassical long-run aggregate supply, and also the Keynesian long-run aggregate supply. In the context of supply-side policies that we are going to cover later today, what is most relevant is the 2 long-run aggregate supply concepts. And for this purpose, we can actually provide a simple function for long-run aggregate supply as the stock of land, labor, capital, and enterprise, and also of the productivity of these resources. Simplified, LRAS equals the function of land, labor, capital, and enterprise. And please remember that we are talking about both the quantity of these resources, so the amount of these resources that an economy has, and also the quality of these resources, so the productivity of the resources that the economy has. For example, the quantity of capital that an economy has, or the labor productivity of the workers in that economy. Please remember these examples when we go through the policies later. But before we go on further on our analysis of supply-side policies, it is worth trying to make some applications to real-life examples. Let's start by looking at the toll of the coronavirus in the UK. As of the 9th of April at 1700 GMT, there were already 8,958 deaths due to the coronavirus, with 70,272 cases. This means that potential workers have died or are ill, which undoubtedly reduces the amount of work that can be done. So this does actually mean that the aggregate supply of the economy, specifically the long-run aggregate supply of the economy, would reduce due to a decrease in the amount of labor or even a decrease in the productivity of workers due to illnesses. But what is more significant is what Professor Eichengreen from the article mentioned earlier said. He explains that workers experiencing unemployment in a downturn could be permanently scarred and they are less able to form durable attachments with employers. Therefore, if there is a significant amount of workers going through this because of the pandemic and current period of joblessness, further labor productivity could also fall. You may have already heard that long-term unemployment does reduce the skills and motivation of workers. Some may even leave the labor force permanently. Therefore, both the quantity and quality of labor could actually significantly decrease because of this coronavirus. Let's take this opportunity as well to recap the various diagrams that could illustrate what we have just mentioned about the potential supply-side impact of the coronavirus pandemic to national economies. As mentioned before, we'll focus on the long-run aggregate supply concepts, both the neoclassical long-run aggregate supply and also the Keynesian long-run aggregate supply, as shown on the slide now. A potential fall in labor productivity due to the coronavirus could shift the LRAS curve leftwards, from LRAS to LRAS1, of both the neoclassical LRAS and also the Keynesian LRAS. Don't forget that YF on the diagram is the maximum level of output of an economy when all resources in the economy are fully and efficiently used. Therefore, a shift inwards of the LRAS curve will also reduce the maximum level of output that an economy can produce when all resources in the economy are fully and efficiently used. Does this diagram or definition actually remind you of another diagram which could show that? Try thinking about one of the first ever diagrams that you learned about in your economics course. Remember yet? Yeah, it's actually the production possibility curve, or the PPC. The YF point on the LRAS diagrams actually can correspond to any point on the PPC itself. For example, label YF on it now. Please remember, it's any point on the PPC. So, if the LRAS falls from LRAS to LRAS1, as we have showed before, the PPC will also shift inwards to PPC1. This means that the new YF point will be on the new PPC curve now at YF1. So, in this part, we have looked at what aggregate supply, specifically what long-run aggregate supply is. We have also looked at the impact of the coronavirus on the long-run aggregate supply of the economy. In the next part, we'll look at the policies that could be done to increase the level of long-run aggregate supply in the economy. In other words, we're going to start looking at supply-side policies. We'll see you there.